and welcome to Messages from Beyond with Shannon Grace. I believe this is session 4, and I'm really excited to be here with you today. It's always fun for me to record these because I really don't have a plan. I don't ahead of time set out with a topic or anything like that. I just kind of get myself ready, get my recording setup ready, and press record and just see who shows up and what shows up and what's there for us to discover. So you're discovering it, but I'm also discovering it at the same time. So it's fun for me. I've always struggled with repetitive stuff or with things that are too much the same all the time. I'm kind of like a squirrel chasing shiny objects. I just really like different things and different topics and different ideas, and I love surprises. Like I absolutely love surprises. Like I remember being a kid, and with birthdays or Christmas or whatever, I never wanted to know what my presents were until it was time to reveal what was inside. So that has definitely carried through to my adult life. I was always very curious about what was in there, but I didn't want to know. So today is kind of, well, yeah, like I mentioned, I don't know ahead of time who's coming through or what's coming through, but just as I was getting my camera set up, I don't know if you can see it, and maybe it's just my eyes see it, but like it looks like there's something here, and I honestly, maybe there you can see it, but it only shows up on the camera. Like when I look down, I cannot see anything on my shirt, and maybe you can't notice it either, but it's just like this little circle right here, and maybe it's noticeable on the camera, maybe it isn't. Oh, I don't know. I can see it. I don't know if you guys can see it. Anyway, sometimes my eyes can also kind of pick up on very fine details. I am a very detail-oriented person for whatever reason, and these very fine details that oftentimes other people don't notice, I do notice. So I just got the sense, like just before I hit record, that this that I cannot see when I look at it is meant to be, it's meant to tie in with who comes through and the topic that is meant for today. So that's kind of cool. Like sometimes I will be given like little clues, or I'll notice things that end up tying in and being relevant to whatever's coming up. So I'm just going to put that out there. I did not, like, it's like, I'm not, I did not think this shirt has a stain. When I look at it, it doesn't have a stain, but it looks like there's something there. So, to me, anyway. So we're just going to go with that. And when I first noticed it on the camera, the first thought I got was like, or the first sense I got was that this is like heart related, because it is on my left side, and it's maybe a little over to the left, but that was the first sense I got, was that it was relating to the heart, or yeah, like arrow through the heart, shot through the heart, those types of things. And yeah, so we'll just see what comes of that when the time comes, or not. Could just be a stain on my shirt, and that's all that it is. Just never know. Yeah, I'm like, there's so many surprises in a day that we could notice and be surprised about if we wanted to. So I'm just checking to see if there's anything else coming through to me or in my mind. I always like to have a clear frontal cortex. So I always like to have a clear thinking mind before I channel and connect to my intuitive psychic. It's not even really my mind, but it comes through my mind. Because then if your mind is clear, then the messages come through clear, and they're not getting hung up and stuck in the muck, kind of, so to speak. So I do feel that, like I'm seeing the image of a loaf of bread right now, which is pretty random and pretty odd. Like when you consider that I don't really have any context for it yet. But it's like a home baked, yeah, and I almost can see like kind of like the olden days now. So I feel that there's some things coming through already without me even like going through the motions of like, okay, I'm connecting to love, light, and truth, and doing that. It was almost like, okay, is there anything in my mind? Oh, here's some stuff already. So I'm already picking up on some images and some scenery that is coming through. So I guess there was some things that were sitting there or patiently waiting for me to hit record so that they could have the spotlight today. So what I'm just going to describe to you what I'm seeing. So what I'm seeing is a freshly baked loaf of like delicious bread. Like it looks so delicious. It's like golden brown everywhere. And I can see like a woman with like traditional, I don't always have the right words, but I'm going to say like pioneer type clothing or like olden days clothing with, and she's like, she has like that big long black cooker scooper that like puts stuff into the big brick fire baking oven and then pulls it out when it's done. So I do see her with that. It's black, and I can just see that she's like using it to move different things around in this big brick fire burning oven of the olden days. And then okay, so, and the loaf of bread is in the forefront. And then I'm seeing an image of like dark at night, and there's not a lot of light, but like maybe it's moonlight, or maybe it's just like it's on a street. And I'm getting olden days as well. And there's like a few men, like there I can see like the silhouettes of men in the shadows. And well, like they're in the street, but they're shadowy to me because it's dark. And they're kind of like scurrying about. And like maybe they're in a little bit of conflict, or maybe they're running away from conflict. And now I'm just getting like someone that's trying to shoot at them or to get them or to stop them. But I actually get that like they were perceived as doing things wrong, but they weren't really doing things wrong. They were just going against the structures of society at that time that really were very hierarchical hierarchies. And yes, so I just see that there was some very different classes of people, and like these people, these men that I see the silhouettes of, they were trying to do right by looking after their family and looking after like their people, or their level of society kind of thing, like the people in their community. There we go. By looking after the people in their community. But then the higher up structures of society didn't really approve of or like what they were doing, because it I'm just getting like it went against the rules, and it went against what like I kind of get like bootlegging, or they were earning money in ways that the law didn't really approve of at that time. But I'm just getting the feeling like but they needed to make money somehow, or else they would be even poorer and more desperate and more like downtrodden, and just they would have even a harder life than they already had. So I do get like these men are quite young and they've got a lot of spunk, and they're quite determined to I don't know, like these guys are in like city streets, but I kind of compare them to cowboys. Like they were just gonna kind of do what they needed to do to look after their community, and sometimes it meant they did some shady, bendy stuff according to the higher rules of society, but they were honorable people, and they it's almost like they had their own rules that they lived by. And even though the rules were maybe a little bit shady, like their intention was always just to like make sure that their families were looked after, and to not live such a poor life. Like I see them as shaker uppers of society, and shaker uppers of the thumb that for so many thousands of years, and I'm not sure that the thumb is even gone yet, but the thumb was there to keep people down. And I do see these men as the shaker uppers of those very split levels of society, and just that like they didn't know it at the time, but their role from a soul perspective, their role was to rise above who they were born as, and break through into those higher levels or higher classes financially, which then kind of stirred up a lot of people that were born into those classes and just like had the privilege of a life in those classes, even though they didn't necessarily earn their way there. They were just born there. And then there was these little renegades that were born down here who did everything they could to like break through that glass ceiling of society, class structure, and live a better life, and have more for themselves and more for their families than what they were born with. Okay, I just have to take a moment, and I forgot to hit something on my phone here, just so that things aren't beeping and getting, yeah, I don't want you to be distracted, and I don't want to be distracted while we're in this experience. So then I'm seeing that like a lot of these class shaker uppers ruffled a lot of feathers. Like I'm seeing how those higher up classes didn't like these renegades having money, and they didn't like these, like, well, they're telling me, they're calling them low life scum. I don't really like repeating those words, but that's what came through as to how these renegades were perceived, and how the people in the upper classes perceived them, and the judgments that they had of them. And it was just like very interesting. Like I'm kind of getting like probably around like 1700s, 1800s, like maybe, yeah, early 1900s is kind of the time frame of when a lot of this was happening. I feel like it's always been happening, and it still is happening. But this is the piece in history that is getting my attention today. So so back to the ruffled feathers. So a lot of people got their feathers ruffled because they felt that these lower class people did not belong there, and they did not belong with them, and it bothered them that they were finding ways to make money to financially be able to be at those levels, but they didn't feel that in the class, like classiness, they did not deserve to be at those levels, which is kind of ironic because a lot of times prestige, how people treat each other in well-off circumstances isn't any better than how people treat each other in very low low society situations, or however you want to word that. Like, I'm just seeing that, like, the different, so the upper class a lot of times doesn't really treat each other or themselves or have a better understanding, or doesn't treat the earth any better, doesn't treat humans or animals any better than the people who they perceive to be lower class or below them. And but they think that they do, and they believe that they do, and they've been taught to think that they do, and they've been told that they're a higher level of whatever. But I like, how can I word this? A man, a woman, a human, men and women, both, all. A person's character should not be judged by how much money is in their bank account, or, like back then, how much money was in their wallet, because nobody really carries, not many people carry that much cash around anymore. So to say, like, in their wallet, well, none of us look that rich nowadays because we have more plastic than cash in our wallets. But so a person's character should not be judged by how much money they have in the bank. And there's just been, like, through human history, there's just been so much of that. Like, so much of that. And as far as, like, hard work goes, and determination and grit, and, like, a lot of these people qualities or human qualities, like the lady that I see with the bread, making the bread, and, like, I don't know if anyone's ever made bread, but, like, it's a lot of work. Like, you gotta beat the bread and like work the bread and knead the bread and shape the bread, and, like, it's a long process. Like, I just don't think a lot of people who do these different jobs or do these different things, like, I just don't think we give them enough credit sometimes for, like, oh, those are such delicious homemade buns, they're so good. But we don't have a concept of, like, how long did those buns take to make, and, like, how much energy and effort went into making those buns or that loaf of bread or whatever, like, by hand, right? Like, it's easy to just put it in the bread machine, or it's easy to just go buy it in the store. But I'm talking about, like, homemade, handmade, physical labor stuff. And so the lady with the big oven, and the lady that was making the loaves of bread, like, I see her as being perceived as a very low class, low yeah, just like, I don't like saying low class, but in the class structures of society, she would have been considered as a lower class person. However, the vibe that I get from her is that she was a very classy human. She was a very high class human where she had very strong morals and she had very strong work ethic, and she like loved her children, and she did the best she could to like raise good, trustworthy, hardworking children that would grow up, you know, into good adults or hardworking adults or whatever. And so, but then I see also like not everyone at that class level was a super awesome human, but I also see that like not everyone at any level of society class was a super awesome human being. And it doesn't matter if you're super rich or super poor. It like who you are as a human should be important too, I guess is kind of the message. Like even these troublemakers in the street who are probably bootlegging or they're doing some kind of swindly thing, their intentions weren't to be swindlers. Their intentions were to find a way to earn a better income so that them and their family would not be so poor, and so that they would have food on the table, and so that they could have, so they could have some simple pleasures in life, and not have everything be so hard and so like thumb pushing down on them. And yeah, I just feel that like this was kind of like being shot down a lot, not because of who they were as people, but because of like the level that they were perceived to be born at, or because of how they grew up, or because of like external things. Yes. Because of external things, they got shot down a lot. And, you know, I've done so much like learning and so much research, like learning and research and like looking at myself and my own struggles and my own limitations. And it's quite interesting because there were these external perceptions and these external class structures and there's all of these external things. But what I've learned is before anything can happen externally, before anything can change externally, you have to change how you see yourself first. You have to change how you see yourself first. You have to change how you see yourself first. And you have to change how you judge yourself, and you have to change how you perceive yourself, and you have to change. Yeah, there's a lot of change from within that has to happen before any external change can happen. So I just get a sense that like the lady with the bread, I just feel that like she knew she was a good person, but she didn't believe that she deserved better than what she had. And she didn't believe that she could like level up or that she could move up, because that, for her, that wasn't as important as working hard and like setting a good example, and yeah, it was almost like she didn't need external gratification, because internally she knew that she was a good person, and she knew that she worked hard, and she knew that she loved her kids, and she showed love to her kids as best as she could. And for these the renegades in the street, I'm seeing that like they did want to push the status quo, and they did want to like not just have their morals and values, but they also wanted to like raise that ceiling. Like they wanted to either like raise the ceiling of the class that they were in, or break the ceiling and like just be able to like have more freedom and like move up a class, but like basically like break open the barriers to the next class so that they could just like be there and get there. And but then the class that was above them that they were trying to break into, they did not want their footing to be destroyed. Like they didn't want their footing broken. They didn't want their class infiltrated by lower class people. And they did a lot of shooting and they did a lot of swindly stuff back to try to keep people down and to protect their own prestige and protect their own community and their own families and whatever it may be, to protect their status. But that was more of an external thing. Like I just get that the guys in the street really wanted to be treated better, and they wanted to be treated with more respect and with more dignity, the word is it's coming. And they didn't like being treated as lesser than. And because I feel like they believed inside of themselves that they deserved better than what they had. They deserved to be treated better than how they were treated. And like so many people could see through the facade, and they could see that these higher classes of people weren't any different than them and were no better of a person than them. And a lot of times, like, they didn't work as hard as them. Like, there just wasn't as much substance to them as what these, like, the working class people came from. And it's kind of just like a people revolution almost. Like I get the sense that like there's all throughout history, there's been people who have been leading a people revolution where we know we deserve better, and we know that we are not the lowly people that we've been perceived as, and like something in them changed. And it's really interesting, like when you get to a point where you've had enough of something, that's when the shit starts to hit the fan, because all of a sudden your belief in who you are and your belief in yourself changes. And you realize it's like, I deserve to be treated better than this. I deserve to have more than this. I am a worthy human being of a better life. And that's when these class clashes would happen, is because something inside of those people changed and they wanted to level up. And that's where a lot of being shot down and a lot of shooting. So being shot down could be like in lots of different ways. Like, you don't get the promotion at work, you get fired from your job, you get thrown in jail for what you're doing, you get your house burned down because they don't like what you're doing. There's so many ways, especially like like I'm talking about back then. But there were so many things that were done to people to shoot them down, to try to keep them down. But I just get like, and some of them obviously were killed or died or gave up, but some of them were very feisty. And some of them had like the spirit of a warrior. And they could see through the bullshit of these levels. And they were determined to get through and to break down these levels. And what I'm getting is that like a lot of times in their lifetime, they never fit in. They might have got there, but they were never respected by the people that were already there. They never they weren't respected. They never fit in. They were still kind of like on the outs. They were still judged. They were still like, they had to fight for everything they got. But then I see like when they had kids, like I saw more like intermingling of those classes with the kids. And then when those kids had kids, then like you're getting further removed from the people who like were in those were battling to get to that next level. So then by the time that it's like grandparents or great grandparents are the people that did the climbing, and you've got 2 or 3 generations now all mixing and mingling in together, these younger generations, they don't even know any different. They don't really, a lot of them don't give a shit. A lot of them can see through the pettiness of those levels. And of course, there are still some who feel they're superior and feel that these other people don't belong. But with time and with more and more generations, from the first generation that broke through that glass ceiling, I'm getting like more and more people find their place, and more people become rooted and connected to where they're at, and less people remember who was there in the beginning and who wasn't, right? And a lot of people just don't care anymore. And it's just a progression. I see it as a progression. So I'm just asking, like, who can, or is there anyone that would like help with something today? Is there anyone that would like to let something go? Is there any way that I can help the people that have come through and kind of like shared their life stories with us a little bit, and that have like given us like a glimpse or like a window into the past and into like what it was like for them at a more personal level than what we could read in a generic textbook, or, you know, what people would imagine that it would be like, other than like autobiographies or even, you know, like true stories that have been passed down from generation to generation in some way about specific people. But what these people are saying to me, like the bread lady and these guys in the street, and even the Stuffy Uppers, I'll call them, they're just like, we don't want to be called Stuffy Uppers, but that is what we were. So, okay, like, they're just saying, like, she is telling the truth. Like, we were Stuffy Uppers, but we don't like that term, but it's relevant. So they're letting me say it. But there's so many stories of people. No, there's so many people who have a story that's never been told. Or it's kind of got, just like no one told their story for them. And they do appreciate that their voices are being heard today, and they're just like, and you're sharing a little bit about our life, and sharing a little bit of their story, and they seem to appreciate that. So then that makes me happy, because I like to do that for people that don't have a voice of their own anymore. And so besides having their voice be heard, and besides offering all of us, myself included, a window into their world, and a window into like what their life was like, and why they did the things they did, and what their thought processes were, and how they felt. Because that's one thing, like, facts are facts and fiction is fiction, and what was is what was. But oftentimes you don't know people's deeper motivations behind what they were doing, and you don't know how it felt to be them. Yeah. And I guess that's one thing that I am meant to share with you, is just like, they would like me to share what it felt like to be them. And like these street rebel guys, the rebels in the street, they're like, we for so long have been given a bad rap about being bad people, and about like breaking the law, and they're like, we got a bad rap. It's like, yes, we did do those things, and yes, like, we did do things that were against the law, or that, you know, were a little shady, they're saying. But what they're saying is, it's important that people know what their motivation was, and why they were doing what they were doing, and what led them to be these rebel guys and little hellions. And they said, like, it's so important to understand people's motivation, and to understand why people are doing what they're doing, and what they're trying to accomplish, or what they're trying to, like, what they're trying to stop, or what they're trying to change. Because these guys, they're saying, like, we were just trying to change the social structures. We were trying to change these hard, like, class structures. And they're like, we were just trying to break some stuff down that didn't feel right. And sometimes you got to do things that go against the code in order to get the job done. And so I'm just asking if there's anything, like, I'm not getting the sense that I'm kind of like, I'm asking the Stuffy Uppers. It's like, you know, they're kind of seeing these people in a different light right now. I feel like the Stuffy Uppers that are listening, just through letting these other people be heard, the Stuffy Uppers are starting to kind of see things in a different way, and they're just able to get a different perspective from whatever that name was that I had said before. Yeah, I don't even remember the word that they gave me before, but just like the low class perceptions, the perceptions and judgments and beliefs that were not true, that they thought about people in lower classes. And so I'm just seeing, like, the bread lady and the rebels, they're like, thank you, like that. It's nice to be heard, and it's nice to, like, have the people that judged us our whole life and like kept the thumb down on us are finally able to see things from, like, can finally hear things from us, like, and they can finally see things in a different way or in a different light. So I'm actually just asking the Stuffy Uppers if there's anything that I could help them with today that, you know, maybe they would be ready for, or that would be beneficial to them or to their descendants or to present and future generations. And they actually do have something. They're saying that they would really like to let go of the lies that they believed about the people who were in the perceived lower classes, society classes, not quality of human classes. Because they're realizing that their class of people, whatever class that was, there was many different classes, but their class of people did a lot of horrible things. They did a lot of horrible things to animals. They did a lot of horrible things to people. They did a lot of horrible things to children. They did a lot of horrible things to the environment. They did a lot of horrible things to each other. And the Stuffy Uppers are realizing it's like, other than their bank accounts, they really, in a lot of ways, were no classier of people than the people below them were. They're just saying, we just did our shit behind fancy houses and in fancy houses and behind fancy curtains. They're like, that's really the only thing that was different. We still did all of the shitty shit that that other classes of people did. And they're just kind of starting to see the truth of the lies, if that makes sense in a roundabout way. It's like they're starting to see the truth of their lies. And these are people on the other side who have passed away. But I mean, a belief and a judgment that someone from 300 years ago or 200 years ago passed away with is still connected to people living now, unless people since them have stopped those judgments and lies and perceptions of other people that person had. So that's the irony with all of this, is that a judgment and a judgment is a thing, and it has its own energy to it. But when the person dies, if that person still holds that judgment, when they die, that judgment sticks around. So the essence of the person moves on, but the judgment sticks around within the family or within the community or within the culture or within the class or whatever. Like, it can go all sorts of places, but that energy, the judgment energy, sticks around, and it becomes a part of the people that are still there, and then the next people, the next generation of people, and the next generation of people, and until it's dealt with, and until it's stopped, and until the truth is seen. Because once someone sees the truth of something, the judgment and the belief and the bullshit of it is gone. And so what the Stuffy Uppers are seeing is that so much of their very judgy, stuffy, very narrow mindsets are still alive and well today, because they did not put a stop to them They did not see the truth of them in their own lifetime. And then the ball keeps rolling. And so I'm just asking them, like, hey, are you open to at least stopping your ball with this? That if it's still rolling, even today, hundreds of years later, would you like to stop your ball so that at least the people of the present and the people of the future aren't also like repeating or riding your I'm not even gonna go there. I'm not even gonna say what was coming, because what it's gonna come out as is not what I meant. They're still riding that train that your wheel or your ball created. So I'm just posing the question to them. And not all of them are saying yes, because a lot of them still have their pride, and that's okay. But I do feel that some of them, they're like nodding their head. They're like, yep, there is some of us who are willing to put a stop to our judgment vibes or our judgment energy. Or I see them as balls. I don't know what, like a rolling ball. Yeah. There's other connotations to that. I don't need to share them. I don't need to share them, but you use your imagination and take what you want from that. But yeah, there's other references to balls there as well, but trying to keep it on the fairly clean side of the message. So there are some Stuffy Uppers that would like to stop. So I'm asking them, what would you like to put a stop to? What balls would you like to stop? And they're saying the ball of unfair judgment, the ball of narrow-mindedness, the ball of like being like pompous and stuck up and like arrogant. There we go. The ball of arrogance, the ball of entitlement, yeah, of being entitled. Like, I didn't earn it. I was born into it, and I'm already still better than you because I was born this way. Baby, I was born this way. Who is that? That's a song. Sometimes I'll just get random like song lyrics in my head. If anybody knows that song, feel free to comment. I did my best to like my best singing of that. Anyway. You get the gist. I'm not going to repeat it, but there is a song where it was like, baby, I was born this way. But using that in a arrogant, entitled ball is not, it's just not helpful for anyone. Okay, so is there any other balls that you would like to stop? Yeah, like just being mean and rude to the people that they believed were lesser than them. Like some of them actually feel kind of bad about that now that they have some awareness as to what was actually going on there. Yeah. Okay. So we've created awareness of it, and you've shared what you're ready and willing to let go of. And now they're saying like, just give us permission to let go of it, or just like, yeah, like I'm acknowledging them and I'm acknowledging what they're ready to let go of. And I'm giving them permission to do that, because when they're over there and I'm over here and what they left behind is over here, it's almost like they don't like to mess with things over here or like come through to things over here unless they are given permission. And yeah, because they're saying if they were still alive and still living and sitting here with me right now physically, they would give, all they would need for this next step is for them to give themselves permission to let that go and to stop those balls. But because they're in energetic form, but we're working on what they left behind in the physical realm, they are saying like, I am meant to give them permission so that they can come and like not come, they're not gonna like come here, but so that energetically they can remove their balls. They left their balls here. And so they can, they're kind of laughing at me right now because they were like, oh, you are not a proper lady. It's like, oh, that is right. Like, I am not. And they're just laughing because they can see through it. They can see through it now. Like, I'm making these different references and different connotations that in their class, I would not be perceived as a proper lady because I like to joke. Like, I like to joke on like the dirty side of things sometimes, actually a lot, but like not always in this format. But yeah, there's people that know me personally that know that I can walk on the dirty side of humor, definitely. And but they're laughing at me because they're saying like, you would not be considered a proper lady if I lived in their times and tried to be in their class and like was making these references and connotations. Like, that was not okay. They're like, it was okay only behind closed doors in private, and which this is not, so it wouldn't have been proper. And they're just letting, like, yeah, they're just like, oh, we can see through that now because they can actually tell, like, they're just like, they can see that like I have a rock solid character, and they're saying like just that same saying, like, don't judge someone's character, or don't judge someone by how much money's in their bank account. Like, judge them on their character. I don't even like the word judge, but perceive them, form your opinions of them based on their character and based on like who they genuinely are as a human being and the qualities and the morals and whatever, not just how they show themselves in public and how expensive their clothing is and how much money they have in the bank. Because there's a lot of really good people that don't have money in the bank, and there's a lot of really good people that do have money in the bank. But there's also a lot of crappy people, character-wise, that have a lot of money in the bank, and there's a lot of really crappy charactered people that don't have money in the bank. So money in the bank and these classes of society should not even be relevant to more than money. It should not be a reflection of who you are as a human on this planet. And I'm kind of looking at the Stuffy Uppers again. It's like, are you getting this message? Do you see how hundreds of years later it's still happening? I'm kind of being a little sassy right now. It's like, do you see that? So and I see that there's a few that weren't on board with it initially to collect their balls, who are now willing to collect their balls. They just needed a little time to sit with it and think about it, and they needed to hear a little bit more before they would realize some truths. So I'm just inviting and giving permission to any stuffy upper, any of the Stuffy Uppers who have come to me in love, light, and truth today that would like to energetically remove their energetic balls that they left behind in the physical realm from their own lifetimes here, that are of those topics that we discussed before, and also judging women about being proper or not proper, and just giving them permission to take their balls and just dissolve them and disintegrate them and just turn them back into pure energy form, love, light, and truth. No more judgment, no more entitlement, no more mean and derogatory and hurtful, and no more lies, and none of that. Yes. So I now see the bread lady and the street rebel dudes, like they appreciate it. They're just like, thank you, and they're appreciating that the Stuffy Uppers. So now they're like, the ones that did let this go, they're saying to me, like, can you quit calling us Stuffy Uppers now, because we're not stuffy anymore. And it's like, okay, well, can I just call you Uppers, because that is the class that you were in when you were alive? And it's like, yes. So the bread lady and the street rebel people are thanking the Uppers who were willing to see the truth, and were willing to see the truth of them and also of themselves, and who were willing to collect those energetic balls of non-truths and twisted perceptions, distorted perceptions, and yeah. So I'm just asking if anyone has anything else that they would like to share, or they would like to say or do, or I just get that, like, the message from the bread lady and the message from the street rebels is that, like, just that, like, for anyone listening to this that has a desire to, like, be, do, and have more than who they are today, or what they have today, or who they be today, it's just that, like, you've got to work on yourself first. You've got to change how you see yourself first. And like, own your worth is what I'm getting. Like, own it and see it and know it and own it. Because if you, like, your worth as a human, and they're just saying, like, quality of human is always more important than money in the bank. However, it's okay to have desires to be quality human and have money in the bank. Whereas for them, they're like, so many of them were quality humans, but they weren't allowed to have money in the bank, and it was pushed down, and it was like, so many people tried to prevent them from having money in the bank. And they're just saying, like, that is, in a lot of ways, that is a difference between them in their lifetime and what was going on, and us now. But I mean, it's still there to a certain degree. They're still the thumb pushers, but not like how they had it for a lot of us, for most of us, not for all of us, but for a lot of us. And so they're just saying, like, it's okay to strive towards quality human being and money in the bank, because you can be, do, and have both. Yes. So I just want to thank the bread lady and the street guys and the uppers and even the Stuffy Uppers that didn't want to change anything today. I just want to thank them for connecting with me so that I could share their messages with you and share my experience with them, with you. And I didn't cry today. I'm very excited about that. Sometimes I get very emotional when these things are coming through because there's so much emotion attached to it. But today I didn't get overwhelmed by emotion. So that's good too. Like, I don't mean to cry in all of these. It's just oftentimes there's a lot of emotion there that I can feel, and then I express it. So I feel like the sense today was a little bit more sassy. Like there is a little more sassiness going on, and just a little bit. Yeah, it was more. Yeah, I don't know. Just the word sassy. It was a little more sassy. So I thank you and thank you. Whoops, my hands are here. I'm like, got to keep them in the camera. But thank you for joining me today. And I am excited to tune in again soon and see what's there for us with this Messages from Beyond series. So bye for now.